video games. They've been my main hobby for most of my life, and now I make videos about video games, which is great. But recently I've been analysing new games and critiquing new systems, and I've noticed a slow but insidious trend toward games becoming more and more monetized, but not fairly monetized. Anti-player monetized. It's the feeling you get when you look at a battle pass in a game you've already paid full price for. It's the tiny slither of sadness when a game you want has different exclusive levels for different consoles, and you'll know you'll never get to experience every part of that game now. It's that cosmetic you want, costing 1,005 gems, but the gems are sold in packs of 1,004. It's the knowledge that year on year the microtransactions from FIFA Ultimate Team alone make more money than Elden Ring's entire sale run. It's the unfortunate reality of gaming after the marketing executives took over, and it's hard to explain exactly how or when it changed, but explaining things is what I do. So let's go back to the start of gaming and work out when this whole mess started. And then I'll actually pinpoint the exact thing, the specific design choice which makes new games feel wrong. Welcome, I'm Josh Hayes. Let's work out what the hell went wrong with the monetization of gaming. As usual, a massive thank you to all the supporters on Patreon, Twitch, and YouTube who keep the channel alive. More information on how you can support at the end. For now, let's begin. Let's go back to the 1980s and early 1990s. The video game revolution was kicking off, but home consoles weren't yet mainstream, so we went to arcades. You put your money in and played a game, effectively making arcades the socially accepted pay-to-play model. There's no denying arcades were bloody expensive. I remember dropping way more than I should have done to complete Time Crisis, but while this was expensive, there was a very simple relationship between the game, the money, and the player. Pay money, get access to the whole game. Victory depends on your skill. Game designers knew it was a simple transaction, and they knew someone would simply play as long as they were able to, so they had to make the game hard so you would die more, and so pay more. This is why the Turtles game had that underwater bit, it's why House of the Dead bosses were damage sponges, it's why Ghosts and Goblins was everything that Ghosts and Goblins is. In the early days of home consoles, when people would rent games, we even called difficult levels blockbuster levels, designed to make the rental period longer and so you'd have to keep renewing it. So why don't these money-hungry games make us feel the same way as modern money-hungry games? Well, it's because the trade of money for game was simple, and there was nothing insidious about the transaction itself. You knew what you were giving, and you knew what you were getting. And if you were to break down the design time of a game into a pie chart at that point, it might look something like this. Story, graphics, narrative connections between them, mechanics, marketing, playtesting, and then how much a go at the arcade costs. There was a lot going on in the development of a game at these times, but it's all focused on making a game good, because at that time, good games make the most money. When a company discovered a successful game, they couldn't just augment the original with downloadable content or extra levels, because that technology didn't exist yet. They'd have to make a complete sequel, and so gamers got more games. Jump forward to the mid-1990s, the home console market had taken off. You buy a console, you buy a game, and then you play that game. Now, the whole lives mechanic in games at this time was a holdover from the arcade design space and wasn't actually needed in home consoles, because you didn't need the player to put more money in. Dying when you have 3 lives, then restarting from your last save, or just dying and restarting from the save anyway with no arbitrary life limit was functionally the same thing, but design moves slowly. Away from the arcade model, you no longer paid per play, and you now paid per game, and you then played as much as you wanted. Games were expensive, of course, but when you bought a game, it was complete. If it shipped with bugs, it would just have bugs forever. If it shipped with secret unlockable stuff, it would have that forever. When you owned the game, you owned the ability to play as much as you want of the complete experience. And this was a very simple and fair transaction. While the arcade was, here's a game, pay us to have a go, the console was, here's a game, pay pay us to keep it and play it whenever. But the home gaming scene wasn't just consoles, it was also PCs. Now, back then PC gaming wasn't as mainstream as it is today, but it did come with one major advantage. Because the PC held a load of data files on its hard drive instead of just reading them from the disk or cart like a console, developers could create additional content for a game and sell that. Like the incredible RPG Baldur's Gate releasing in 1998 and then the multi-hour-long expansion Tales of the Sword Coast in 1999. This was a time in gaming where developers could develop additional content, but when they did, it was usually a lot of content. PC games saw expansion after expansion, Morrowind seeing the Tribunal and Blood Moon expansions, Diablo 2, then the Lord of Destruction expansion, and all the extra modules for Neverwinter Nights. This was additional content for a game without being a sequel, but again, gamers didn't hate this because the transaction was very simple to understand and it felt fair. You gave them money, you got an experience designed to be the most fun it could possibly be. The biggest difference in this era is there's no trickery. You're not being manipulated, it's just a straight up understandable product. If we again take the idea of breaking down game development time into a pie chart, you've probably got a few new bits to the pie by now. Magazine adverts and articles, some TV ads, and the arcade price replaced with a box price. But it is still mostly make a good game and you will make good money. Then in 2004, online gaming really started to kick off, with World of Warcraft being released, but Blizzard aren't the bad guys in this story, at least not yet. For now, we need to look to the east, to another popular online game from Korea called MapleStory. Now in Japan, the small toy capsules gachapon had been popular for years. You put money into a gachapon machine and get a random toy of varying rarity. These systems appeal to people who like collecting things and people who like random chance or mystery. It's basically gambling on a rather inconsequential level, but the psychology behind it is very, very powerful. So MapleStory introduced an in-game gachapon style system. 100 yen got you a ticket for a random in-game item, and many people consider this to be the first example of a random loot box. But more importantly, this was the first moment in mainstream video games where you could pay money and not know what you were getting. You were no longer paying for the game or for an established product, you were paying for the mystery, the ephemeral moment of what if between purchase and eventual prize. And this system made a lot of money, because MapleStory was online and other people could see what you won. So it was no longer about having the game and enjoying the game, it was now about a sense of community and prestige when you have something somebody else doesn't. If you make your game multiplayer, competition amongst players becomes a thing, and there are a subset of players who enjoy being seen as the person with the best stuff. And unlike real gachapon machines, which were either a physical distance to travel to or had a queue by them or sometimes just sold out, virtual gachapon tickets were unlimited, entirely within the company's control and could be bought constantly. MapleStory already had the in-game items made, so they were selling the excitement of chance, and they were tapping into the collector and completionist mentality of many hardcore gamers. So game developers began to see they didn't actually need to sell a gaming experience anymore. They could instead sell the small adrenaline spike of potential. This was a turning point. A moment investors realized it was completely worthwhile to dedicate at least some game development time, not to the game itself, but to systems within the game designed simply to extract money from the player after they had started playing, but without giving them a complete new game. This is the first part of the puzzle for where we are today. So let's put this idea of sell random chance into a little box. A box of all the design tricks which don't favour the player or make the game necessarily any better. A box of design tricks which don't make you think, oh my god, this is amazing, I need to tell all my friends, but instead use the game as a simple vehicle for additional money.
Is it working now? Working. Oh, what? Oh my goodness. It wasn't even plugged in all the way. That's a rip. Oh no. Slurp for the save. Slurp for the save. It was unplugged. It was unplugged. Oh, that's wow. Anyway, as I was trying to tell you for like 5 minutes, um, so let me restate that. So yes, I am selling my J Hammer, and the reason why I'm selling it, which actually looks like it's on the market now, relist. I was trying to sell it. Yeah, sell. Is it gonna work now? No, wait. What? Why does it relist it? I want it just to sell. I gotta wait another 15 more minutes? What? Oh, that's so annoying. Anyway, yeah, so the reason why I'm selling it is because I really want to use this money to get my final pin crescent ring and also to extract this cup as well, which I think will cost me I think it's 2 billion to extract this cup to put into the ring, into the new pin ring. But essentially, you would really only want to use the new J hammer if you have like one of these, right? So if you have like a Tet Deborah belt, then that's probably when you would want to use it. Oh, J price down bad. It's 29 bill now. Oh, wait, really? So you're trying to sell it too? That's a rip. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of stupid. You have to wait 15 minutes. But yeah, unless you have like a Deborah necklace or like any of the Deborah accessories, like a Tet, you would want to use this, and then you would use the hammer to get the pin, right? So, but I don't know if I'll really ever get a Deborah accessory. Who knows? Maybe in a couple years. Hard to tell. But as of right now, I'd rather just have the cash. I cannot believe my mic was unplugged talking this entire time. That is a rip. I don't know why, but I feel like my Sage, like I feel like it should be stronger for some reason. Like I just feel like I don't do as much like damage as like my striker. Maybe I need to hit level 62 and it'll feel a little bit better. cute. So cute. You have to let me know if your J Hammer sells at 29 bill. Makes me wonder where I need to try to sell it. See, what's killing is the 15-minute wait time. It's kind of cool though that you can sell it. Okay, really? All right, what's it called? J. J. There it is. That's so crazy. 2,400 of those are up on the market right now. Wait. Oh, that's right. I totally forgot that you're on a different server. That's right. So right now, your server is selling it for 29 bill. Hmm, interesting. Might just put mine for 30 if it doesn't sell this time. Look at 233 are listed. Like, jeez, 2,400. People are like, give me my money. Give me my money. I don't even know what to go for after this accessory. I mean, I need to obviously get my boots, but well, I guess I could start putting pre-orders back up for costumes, so I could start tapping for these pieces to try to get them to try. Because I'll probably get this to try, and then once I get my Ator's boots, get that to try. So that's gonna take me quite some time to get there. It's gonna take me a while. How many flames do I have? Or embers? I have 76. Oh, I'm so close. I'm so close. It's so crazy. I've literally been putting pre-orders up for embers probably since like really probably since what, November maybe? I feel like it's been since November since I put pre-orders up. So yeah, it's been a while. Oh, I got another feather. Probably gonna still take me a while to get my flame. 99, baby. Hey, can you give me a sip of your tea? No, no, I don't want it. Don't give me the whole thing. There you go. No, here. I don't want it. Here. It's watered down. Waste of my tea. We're gonna have to get our own separate tea jugs. What? Hopefully the tag event's still going on. Wait, you can still get the armor stones? Once used enhance armor. Cannot be used anymore. Wait, why can we still get armor stones? Wait, how do you enhance armor then? Am I going crazy? Huh. Okay. I'll have to look at the patch notes. Yeah, energy increased. I'm talking about. Oh. I'm not gonna lie. Sage does feel really good. It's kind of cool. Like a lot of big AoE. The effects are really cool. For some reason though, I just feel like I don't do as much damage as I should. I don't know. Maybe it'll feel a little bit different once I hit 62. Like I'm pretty sure all my skills are like where they need to be at, I think. Like I don't think I'm missing anything. Got- Like I have my add-ons. I have all these maxed out. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of odd. All right, I'm gonna go back here and play this again.
Monetization. Now, the techniques in this box are not games themselves. They cannot exist on their own. They aren't symbiotic with a game because they don't enhance each other. They are parasitic because they need the game to survive but don't necessarily improve it. We'll call this box Abusive Monetization Strategies, or for a more catchy title, Pandora's Box of Bad Design. The main danger of this box is, if we were to take the pie chart of game development time now, knowing that this box exists and knowing the techniques inside it can make a decent amount of money, the finance people know they need to find space for the techniques within this box somewhere on the pie chart, which means something else must lose out. Jump forward 2 years to 2006. The Western gaming market hasn't yet discovered the mass appeal and psychological dominance that loot boxes have, but they have discovered something just as important. Gamers will pay money to look different. And it all kicks off with this
Cosmetics.
stupid horse. Now, I've made a complete
Wait,
video
no,
on the
wait.
history of this horse, but the short story is The Elder Scrolls Oblivion was a great game with some great DLC, Knights of the Nine and the Shivering Isles. But you could also pay a few dollars to give your horse armor. Now, it's important to understand this is completely cosmetic. It doesn't actually make your horse any better in combat or defend it, but you can buy it. And people did. In fact, a lot of people bought it, and this highlighted another thing. Making a game takes a long time, but once the main game is made, the development time it would take to make a cosmetic for that game is relatively short, and that cosmetic can be sold for a small amount of money, but it can be sold many, many times. The cost is micro, but the sales volume is high, hence microtransactions.
Yeah, BDO's
Separate from
costumes.
the idea of a complete expansion, which would expand a game and make the game experience bigger, a microtransaction adds hardly anything beyond the original experience. It's almost inconsequential, but it's not free. So now developers know expansions are a bit risky, but microtransactions are very safe and very small. Even if they don't sell, it's not a great waste of developer time. So the focus shifted away from selling a main game with lots of expansions to selling the main game and then lots and lots and lots and lots of small additional things. The problem with this is now developers had a vested interest in keeping the coolest cosmetics or the most fun little things out of the base game and instead releasing them as additional microtransactions, which is something we'll see happen more and more. And this absolutely does not favor the player, because it leads to an experience where you as a player, even though you have bought the game, when you sit down to play it, you do not feel like you have access to the whole game, because you don't. It used to be you bought a game and got a game. Now it's you buy a game and you get the main framework, which you need to pay more to flesh out. So let's add sell small additions to your game as microtransactions to the box of abusive monetization strategies. And as the box grows, so does the space it would need to take up on the game development pie. Now we head into 2009 to the rise of Facebook and one of the cornerstones of casual gaming and monetization progression, Farmville. Farmville was everywhere in the late 2000s, made by Zynga, and these guys were masters because Facebook was everywhere. Everyone was on it, and even non-gamers were gaming, which sounds great, but they were burning through the game too quickly. They were enjoying it and then just moving on, which was not great because Facebook is all about retention. So Farmville did something really counterintuitive to increase player retention. They gave you daily energy, so you couldn't progress more than a certain amount every day. Now these games were mostly played by people on phones and laptops, and people got bored pretty quickly. And one of the best ways to prevent boredom is to limit your time with something. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, as they say. So energy systems limiting what actions you could take, or timers connected to growing your crops or building things and you couldn't progress them quicker. By making the player progress only in short but intense bursts and then wait for their next fix of game, you either force them to pay more money to gain more energy or to skip the timers, or you make them return tomorrow. And this is game design focused on the formation of daily habits. The psychological power of the habit has been studied for years. Motivational speakers talk about them, self-help books push them, and now gaming companies were looking to use them as a way to turn players into users. Because it wasn't just about the game being fun anymore. The focus wasn't on giving the player the best experience you could give them and letting the player enjoy it at their own pace. The focus was about the game being effective at encouraging a specific behavior response from the user. Encouraging the user to return day after day is habit forming. Someone who plays your game habitually is more likely to remain playing even after the game itself has stopped being enjoyable. They're just continuing their habit. Along with this, game designers knew you would also have friends on Facebook that may not be playing the game, and they wanted those friends to play the game, which is why they put the mechanics in the game of share this achievement with your friend to get bonuses and get boosts. A huge amount of people began playing Facebook games not because they thought they would be the type of game they enjoy, but because they were doing their friend a favor by starting up. They were supporting their farm. They were joining their mafia. And just like MapleStory's gacha being viewed by the players in the game, you could share the progress of your farm. You could show off how far along you were, which spurred competition. So we can add limiting progression per day and encouraging you to invite your friends to start the game to give yourself advantages, or the ability to share your progression with the community, which is why achievements on almost all consoles and PCs are publicly viewable, into the box of abusive monetization strategies. And while habitually playing something isn't generating money in itself, it does keep the audience around longer so they can be exposed to other, more successful strategies. Now, some people will point out that paying to advance more or paying to skip timers is in some ways similar to the old arcade process of dying and then putting more coins in to continue, and it is similar, but there is a crucial difference. With an arcade game, you could, in theory, finish the game entirely on skill. These timers and energy bars in games such as Farmville cannot ever be finished on skill alone, because you will hit a wall that you will need to either wait for or pay to remove. But this wasn't everything. Nowhere near. Farmville had other strategies. You had timers and you could pay to make them progress faster, but not with money directly. Now you had to convert real money into a proprietary currency. In this case, farm bucks. And this is one of the most prevalent designs we still see used, because it does several psychological things disgustingly well. If you can buy something directly from a game, you can see the cost in a currency that you understand. But if the game displays items in their own proprietary currency, such as gems or coins or platinum or farm bucks or whatever they want to call it, you have to make one mental step converting the currency from what you understand to what you don't understand. So all these things are now one mental step away from having real value, and that is hugely important, because even one step is further than most people are willing to go. So let's add that into the box. Proprietary in-game premium currency to obscure real-world value by a single step. Bonus points if it makes you convert the currency to multiple other in-game currencies, which is almost completely impossible to track in your own mind. So you need to buy the currency, and this is the next trick. The currency is usually sold in packs, and these packs are specifically sized to either be just under what
See,
you
I don't
actually
know.
need, or very,
It doesn't
very close
really,
to the next best thing, making you consider
like
the next
having
pack up.
multiple
For
different
example, if you
currencies
need
really
100
doesn't
gems to buy something in the game, and gem packs are sold in packs of 90
like
or
make me think that it's
205, you may as well
cheaper
buy the
or whatever
205
it may
pack.
be.
But then there's a really good
Like
item
I
in the game
understand
for
like if I'm
210,
spending this
and
much
you're only 5
money,
gems
like
short. But the next
that's
pack
what this
contains
currency
500
represents.
gems. But there's a mega item for 505 gems, and you're only 5 gems shy of that now. You're not thinking about the number 505, you're thinking it's only 5 and then only another 5. Much smaller jumps for much higher jumps in value. You'd be a fool if you didn't take them, right? So that's going in the box of bad design. But let's say you do buy a pack. Whatever pack you buy, you will spend your unique in-game proprietary currency, but then you'll discover something else. The currency is non-refundable, and it is almost impossible to spend all of it. You'll always be left with some random number, like 4 gems or 2 bits of platinum. It's
Dude, this is so
never
annoying.
0. And this will bother you, because in your mind, that's a waste, and you don't like waste. And if you don't spend that currency, then the game is keeping it, and you've paid for that. But the only way to make this useful is to buy another currency pack. I mean, you'd be a
Why
fool
do
if
you have to
didn't
wait
do that,
15
right?
minutes
You
to
can't
do
have
this?
premium currency just sitting there in strange, unspendable amounts. It's annoying, and it's by design. So add that to the box. But maybe you know all this, and you're not a fool. You won't spend a lot, you'll wait for a sale, but oh look, you're a brand new player and there's an offer. A load of premium currency, a boost, a few cosmetics. It's a limited time offer, and it's all for the low price of just under $1. Now, you'd definitely be a fool if you didn't buy this. If you've ever wondered why the intro packs to almost any game are such good value, it's because studies have shown people who buy a single purchase are much, much more likely to make another purchase. So you want to make the first purchase really enticing. And it's because some phones need you to authorize in-app purchases. But once you've authorized one, it will not double check for any extra purchases. So you confirm that you want to buy the cheap pack, and then it doesn't double check for the expensive packs, because every screen between the player and a purchase is a moment they could doubt and reconsider. So you want to get those "are you sure you want to purchase this" checks agreed with and out the way early. Unusually cheap intro microtransactions just to get you
Yeah,
into a
I mean,
habit.
that's smart.
Let's add that to the box. And while the box is looking pretty
That is
anti-player and
smart.
anti-consumer so far, it's nowhere near full. To truly see how effective this ugly design can be, we only need to go forward 1 year to 2010 and look at FIFA's Ultimate Team mode. Now, I'm not really into football games, but the FIFA franchise of games actually highlights the game design shift really well. It shows how games have moved from being a fun experience by themselves to a fun enough framework that other monetization
Yeah, it's
tactics
like
will cling
football.
to like limpets. In FIFA, you can buy loot boxes, which contain random cards of
Yeah.
players, and use these to
Try
build
to
up
get
your
your
ultimate
team
team. The
stacked.
Ultimate Team mode takes several of the box ideas and combines them, and now the Ultimate Team mode makes more money than the box sales of FIFA
That's
itself.
so crazy,
In fact,
bro.
since 2018, FIFA Ultimate Team has generated over $1 billion in revenue
What?
per year for EA. In
That's
2021, they made
crazy.
1.6 billion, and it happens
Every
single
single
year. And the
year.
cards you buy
Jeez.
in the Ultimate Team for 1 year cannot be used
Freaking
in the next
nuts.
year, meaning the
That is so
microtransactions now
nuts.
have a shelf life. Horse armor may last forever, but what if it didn't? What if you could make a player pay for it again and again every year? Let's add that to the box. Yearly repeating microtransactions. Now, as a developer, you'd look at this thing, this box, and think, wow, selling my game isn't the profitable thing anymore. It's what I can sell within the game. By
Yep.
now, the box of abusive monetization
Pretty
strategies
much.
is so big, it's almost impossible to ignore if you are making a game. 1 year later, in 2011, the MMORPG RuneScape is suffering. They had a major update to the combat system, which a huge majority of the player base hated, and this made them lose a lot of players. This is a mistake worthy of its own video, but the bottom line is, they are a monthly subscription game losing subscribing players, and they need to find a way to either recover
Dude, what is
paying
up with these
members or to stem
cronstones?
the tide of people leaving.
And what
Enter
sucks
the loyalty
is these
program. Every month
cronstones
of membership,
suck.
you
Like,
can
you only
earn
get like
loyalty points, and you earn
3 or
more
4
for
of
every
them.
consecutive month that you remain subscribed.
It's not even
and
worth
then you
it.
can spend loyalty points on cool exclusive
If
cosmetics
basketball is
or
19
mechanically powerful
million,
auras and boosts. So now,
jeez, that's
cancelling your
cheap.
membership wasn't just a case of thinking, I'm not enjoying the game, so I won't pay, which is a very simple, understandable, fair transaction. It's now a case of thinking, I'm not enjoying the game, but if I unsubscribe, I break my loyalty streak and will earn far fewer loyalty points over the long run, which will put me at a disadvantage if I ever do want to come back in the future, which is not as fair. The transaction used to be simple, but now we're putting the player in the position of give money even if you don't want to play because you don't want to break a habit. That's going in the box. And by now, the box is demanding a bigger and bigger slice of the game design pie chart. 2 years later, 2013 sees the release of Dead Space 3, the third installment in a terrific horror trilogy. Well, sort of. While Dead Space 1 and 2 were indeed terrific horror games with tension and pacing and balanced gameplay and great stories, Dead Space 3 did something strange. It took the idea of you being a lone engineer trapped on an infested spaceship, struggling against incredible odds, using only your small collection of mining tools and very limited ammunition to survive, and it added in the ability to let you buy in-game guns with real cash from the cash shop. A horror survival game selling you in-game guns and ammo, completely defeating the atmosphere and vibe the game was going for.
Dude,
Selling
that's
players things they could use
terrible.
within your game to make the game easier. Let's add that to the box. That's effectively selling power. This one manages
That
to
is
out-monetize even
definitely
the
selling
arcade. It
power.
would be like putting more coins into Time Crisis and getting a rocket launcher, or removing the time limit in Crazy Taxi. It sort of defeats the purpose of the original game.
Exactly. What's the
Along
point of
with
playing the
Dead Space
game?
selling guns, we now see the MOBA game Dota 2 release
Like,
what many consider the first major battle
I mean,
pass
cosmetics
system.
is one
Now, when this
thing,
craze
but
started, I remember walking
if
into
you're like
gaming shops and seeing the phrase battle
being able to
pass
buy
everywhere,
power
and
with
had
it,
no idea
then
what they
like
were. Effectively, they are optional
that's
purchases which
terrible.
unlock a series of challenges or processes you can go through to unlock more stuff in the game.
All right, let's go
but
here.
They are time sensitive. So you buy the monthly battle pass, and if you play a certain number of hours or kill a certain number of enemies or achieve a certain number of whatever it wants you to do, you can advance along the battle pass and unlock new stuff. Now, you could just have the unlockable stuff be available for everyone to unlock anyway, but by limiting it to a timed battle pass, you're doing a few manipulative things. You're creating a fear of missing out, or FOMO, as players know if they don't have this month's battle pass, they may never get the full experience or that rare cosmetic ever again. So you are encouraging an unhealthy amount of gameplay, because if you're not advancing your battle pass, you're losing precious time. So now you're actually discouraging players from enjoying any other game and forcing them to focus entirely on progression within yours. This design is of course at odds with the limit playtime technique, because they appeal to different demographics. Remember, a battle pass or limited time progression track doesn't always actively improve a game, but it does always increase that game's revenue, so throw it in the box. By now, even the concept of a fun, well-made game is starting to look like a horrifically augmented shadow of its former self. Imagine what a well-made game would look like if you tried to shoehorn in all of the techniques in this box. And unfortunately, eventually, you won't need to imagine. We're seeing it more and more. Later that same year, one of my favorite games comes out, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, a fantastic pirate game. There's just one problem. Unless you own both a PlayStation and an Xbox and are willing to buy 2 copies of the game, you can never experience the full game. Black Flag featured console-exclusive levels, which not only fueled the petty console wars, but also highlighted the fact that marketing executives
Are you
were
serious?
powerful enough
Different
to tell
expansion
game
packs?
developers exactly what their players deserved,
What?
or more importantly, what their
Depending on the
non-players
console?
don't deserve. This is
That's
not player-focused design
insane.
at all.
I did
And while
not
I
even know that was a
completely
thing.
understand the power of console exclusives,
What
when
the
I walked
heck?
into a game shop and picked up 2 copies of Black Flag and realized no matter what I choose, there is a mission I won't get to play because I don't have the right console, that didn't leave a good taste in my mouth. So while
Screw
Dota may have
that.
started the Battle Pass idea, it was almost perfected 4 years later in 2017 by Fortnite Season 2, which replaced the Season Shop with a Battle Pass system. And then later in November of 2017, we witness a bit of gaming history, and it fills us all with a sense of pride and accomplishment. Star Wars Battlefront 2 was an amazing game which released back in 2005, not to be confused with Star Wars Battlefront 2, which was a mediocre game which released in 2017. It was a full-priced game and yet also had a loot box system in it along with premium currency system. This led to a Reddit user complaining that even though they'd bought the $80 deluxe version of the game, they still couldn't play as Darth Vader from day one. Unlocking Darth Vader means buying his hero crate, which costs 60,000 in-game credits, or you can spend real money. Now, you can earn an average of 250 credits per 10-minute match at the time, so you'd have to grind for roughly 40 hours of constant gameplay, longer than the average completion time of most video games,
40
unlock
hours?
a single rare character. Or you could pay crystals in the premium shop and spend those on hero crates and just hope. EA responded to this Reddit complaint saying the reason crates were so expensive or take so long to unlock is to give a sense of
Look at that
pride and
downvote.
accomplishment to players who did manage
Holy
to unlock.
cow.
This becomes the most downvoted comment in Reddit history. So, locking premium parts of your
That's
fully
so
priced game behind even hours of
crazy.
grind or spending even more money to unlock the cool stuff before other people.
That downvote
Also
was
gamers do. Now, it's
insane,
important
bro.
to understand that games having things locked within them is not necessarily
Alright,
bad
where
design. One of my
is
favorite games of all time is SSX
the
Tricky, the snowboarding game.
Marnie
And as you play through that,
zone?
you unlock new characters, new boards, and new tracks. Progression within a game and
Oh,
building that
goodness.
progression with new mechanics, new characters, and new areas is not bad. The problem was progression wasn't the only way to unlock this. You could simply pay more money to get
Where
it
are you
immediately. And because it
at?
was a
Marnie
competitive game,
zone,
people
Marnie
who paid the extra money
zone.
were at an advantage over those who did not. This is a video about how newer games feel wrong, and it feels wrong to buy the same game as someone else and to know that they will have an advantage over you if they pay more. Throw that in the box of abusive monetization. Why not? It's going to work. And then 5 years later, Diablo Immortal happened. Now, I've already covered Diablo Immortal pretty extensively in the video The Diabolically Immoral Diablo Immortal and its follow-up about the legendary crests, because it took basically every idea from the big box of abusive monetization and sprinkled them liberally over a somewhat Diablo-looking game, including multiple premium currencies, a deliberately similar in-game item which functions slightly differently to a paid version of the same thing, and multiple battle passes all called different things. But don't worry, because everyone assured me that Diablo Immortal was a mobile game, and thus would not be representative of the actual next Diablo game, which would be Diablo 4. Everyone told me Diablo 4 would be a full game by itself, with no cash shop, with gameplay first, and none of the strategies from the big box of badness. So of course there are various digital versions of the game, the more expensive ones giving you an accelerated battle pass bonus allowing you to progress quicker, and there is a cosmetic cash shop using its own proprietary currency. And if you're thinking Diablo doesn't need all these extra bells and whistles to be a good Diablo game, you are correct. These have not been added because they make the game better, they've been added because they make the game money. And then Dark Tide released, which is a full-price game with an abusively priced cash shop, or you can grind for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours to get some of the cheap things in that shop. And now we're here. So why have games become like this? Simple, because games are businesses. Games have been businesses since arcades, since consoles allowed you to buy the game and have it in your own home. They have always wanted to make money. But up until now, the best way to make the most
All right,
amount
where's
of
the
money was
best
make the
place
best
to
game
park
you
my
possibly
horse
could,
at?
because people would buy it, and that was it. The transaction was finished. It was fair. The best way to make money on modern games is to make the best framework as a holder for these strategies. And companies have experimented with various methods to increase income over the years, from gacha loot boxes to pre-orders, console exclusives to battle passes, energy systems to just straight up selling power. And instead of hiring game designers, they hired psychologists to build habits, to reinforce addictive behaviors.
I don't understand how they are not attacking my horse.
The problem was these techniques were never about the player having fun. They were about the user being monetized. And when a marketing executive pictures you playing a game, you aren't pictured smiling and laughing with friends. You're pictured opening your wallet and reaching for your credit card, because that's their goal. And eventually, the Pandora's box of abusive monetization strategies was so full of proven, effective techniques that making a game is often no longer about the game, at least not for the people in charge of the money. The game is now simply a life support system for as many of these systems as you can
guarantee you.
The game is a host, and the parasite of monetization has begun to take over, and the unfortunate reality is this works. Even with a breakout incredible success like Elden Ring, which won Game of the Year,
you know, actually what I could probably do,
copies as of this video, at $60 a sale, that's over $1 billion in sales worldwide.
That's so annoying.
Still
but
slightly shy of how much money
what I probably could do
this year. It is still shocking.
All right, do I have
how
anyone?
Much money FIFA Ultimate Team has made every year
okay,
for the last 4
Altanova.
years. The reality is, when companies look at that pie chart of game development time and how they divide developer time or invested money, that big box of abusive monetization strategies, that Pandora's box of terribleness, is so effective, they would be hurting their own profit to not put at least some of the techniques in. The older designers simply didn't have the knowledge of this box, and even if they did, they didn't have the technology to act on it at the time. Modern design often puts the player into an awkward position where the game has spent more time focusing on the manipulative, abusive systems than it has on just being the best game it could be. So what is the exact choice which makes games feel wrong? Is it MapleStory's fault for adding Gachapon? Is it Oblivion's fault for the horse armor? Is it Dota's fault for the battle pass? FIFA's fault for the success of Ultimate Team? Is it Farmville's fault for mastering the addiction cycle? Or is it EA's fault for locking away Darth Vader? Unfortunately, it's kind of all of them. It's just the reality of games design today. You cannot close the lid on Pandora's box. Designers can't unknow the effectiveness of these techniques. And every game made for the rest of time has to either use them or actively choose to avoid them. So the exact choice that makes a game go from being the best it can possibly be to anti-player or anti-consumer is when a designer or a marketing executive stops thinking about how they can make the best game they're capable of and starts throwing some sly glances toward the box in the corner. And when they say, hey, this technique may not fit our game perfectly, but it's proven to make a lot of money. Do you think we could put it in our game? That is the moment any specific game goes downhill from what it could be from a player's perspective. And the worst part is that big evil box and all its dark design knowledge is constantly being added to. And when you play a new game and spot the cash shop and the battle pass and the premium currency,
I'm gonna park this person right here.
Exclusive levels, and when you just feel sad that
I don't know, I never thought about this.
do that, that's when you know that the pie chart of design of this game had at least a small slice dedicated to that stupid box. A small slice focused on making the game a little bit anti-player in the name of a lot of profit. But personally, I also know it can be very cathartic to be angry at a thing instead of a concept. So let's all just collectively agree to blame the stupid horse. Cheers for watching. Another massive thank you to all the supporters on Patreon, Twitch, and YouTube who keep the channel alive. You can support from only £1 a month. Check the description for links to the Patreon, Twitch, Twitter, and our Discord. And as always, have a great day. The MMORPG genre has millions of players across
Man, dude, this stupid short on my computer is so stupid. The truth about MMO content
Multiple games,
creators.
from major studio releases to the more niche markets. And yet, as a genre, it has relatively few content creators. There are a handful of general MMO channels covering the genre as a whole, several video essay channels who touch on MMOs from time to time, and then specialized channels who focus on a specific game. But when you compare the MMORPG content creator roster to larger genres like first-person shooters or battle royales, even individual games like Minecraft or League of Legends, we are relatively small. The truth is, I want more people to start making MMO content, but there are some harsh truths you should know before starting. So why aren't there more general MMO content creators? Why aren't new up-and-coming YouTubers flooding into this market? And what's affecting the quality and quantity of the content that the current content creators can put out? Let's find out. Welcome, I'm Josh Strife-Hayes, and in this video I'm going to pull back the curtain on MMORPG content creation full expose style. I'll be talking to several other MMO content creators about their process and the challenges they face. If you've ever watched any MMO content creator, either general genre focused or game specific, and thought, oh, why do all these guys suck? We need better creators, then this video is for you, because put simply, we want more people to make MMO content, but we also need to be honest with you about what you're getting yourself into. This isn't me complaining about my job. I think I have the best job in the world, and I'm privileged to be able to create content on a genre I love so much. This video is simply a look at the reality of the challenges you will face creating content within the MMO arena. For this video, I reached out to and interviewed several other YouTubers who cover general MMO content, several who specialize in one specific MMO game, and several general entertainment channels whose work includes MMOs. These channels include Asmongold, Kira TV, The Lazy Peon, MMO Byte, Work to Game, Ginger Prime, Callum Upton, Zeppler, Brozeme, Wicked Wiz, Many Kudos, Rage Darling, The Mighty Teapot, and Nerd Slayer. I sat down and spoke to each of these creators at length about 7 specific issues I feel MMO content creators face.
Pretty
1.
good list.
The actual audience size of the MMO market in relation to the general gaming world. 2. The toxic response of extreme fans to critique of their game. 3. The risks of being a general genre channel versus specializing into a single game. 4. The sheer amount of time it takes to finish an MMORPG. 5. The time-sensitive nature of MMOs pushing creators to make repetitive videos or focus on speed over depth. 6. The viability of first impression videos and why the genre is strange in its celebrated design trope of endgame. And 7. The difference in playing to critique and playing to enjoy. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to include the complete interview with every creator, because doing that would make this video over 7 hours long, so I've had to edit them down to succinct answers. No one has been edited to appear out of context or to provide a false narrative away from their true feelings. The Lazy Peon was unable to talk via audio, but he did provide a complete list of answers to me, so those will be read in. Because of the need to be thorough and give each creator time to explain their position, this needed to be a long video, so grab a drink and settle in as we discuss the truth behind MMO content creators. As usual, a massive thank you to all the supporters on Patreon and Twitch who help keep this channel alive. More information on how you can support at the end. For now, let's begin. The first issue is the total size of the audience actually consuming MMO content. Let's start simple. Why don't the mainstream gaming news have detailed coverage on MMORPGs? While you might get the occasional review on Final Fantasy XIV and its massive multi-million-pound expansions, or the cinematic trailers for The Elder Scrolls Online, you won't find PC Gamer discussing the monthly RuneScape patch notes, or print newspaper articles about the nerfs and buffs of Neverwinter. As an MMO fan, it can be important to step back and realize while the genre has passionate fans, the average person may not even know what the acronym MMO means. Games like Call of
All right. That podcast is pretty intriguing. I need to figure out where I can park my horse at real quick. Because that's kind of an issue. I don't know where I can park my horse. How annoying. Hmm. Maybe here? No. 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 Dude. Oh no. Oh no. Leave my horse alone. I don't understand how my horse doesn't get attacked right here. See, it makes me wonder. All right. So I need to. Okay. So that's what I need you to do. See, if that horse would have just instant teleported, I would have been completely fine. But it had to run through the mobs to get to me. See, I think hopefully I can just park my horse like right here and it should be fine. All right, instant teleport. Nice. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, we're gaming. All right, I think we might be good. All right, so let me go ahead and enter. All right, so yeah. I guess I can maybe park my horse like right here. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then potion settings, item settings, confirm. All right. Like I miss. Oh yeah, my Vel's heart. No way, I got my Vel's heart. What am I missing? Oh, I'm missing my food. Okay, now we're good.
of Duty, Candy Crush, and FIFA simply appeal to far more people. If gaming magazines were still the primary form of distributing gaming news, the editor would have to make a decision about what news deserves front page space, or even major article space within the magazine, and the MMO genre would never be the first choice. Now, print media is dying, but the principle remains the same with digital. Front page space is still limited on a website. While a gaming news site may be able to host an article about MMOs, it just won't get as many views as an article about, say, Apex Legends or Minecraft. This means reporting on MMOs is often too niche for major news sites, so you have the more focused sites like MMO Bomb or Massively OP. While these sites do a great job of reporting on the MMO world, they don't have the funding of the major sites. What this means is, while individual creators can find levels of success, there's far less fame and fortune in MMO content than in other genres. MMO videos are often produced by individuals, not teams, and this impacts both the quality and quantity of content. The individuals need to play the games themselves, record the footage, write the scripts, record the voiceover, edit it, and then upload it, and all this takes time. Now, large corporations can crank out endless daily content with extremely high production values about popular games because they know those videos will be consumed by the gaming masses. While there are standout creators who have been able to produce high quality content like Settled with his old school RuneScape series, those videos take weeks, sometimes months to create, and a career on YouTube needs you to make consistent, high-quality videos. The MMO content creation landscape is simply much smaller scale than many realize.
Oh, absolutely, and that's the same with anything. It's basically like concentric circles that become smaller the more that you get into it. And I use this analogy whenever I was talking about pay to win in games. It's that you have like the circle of people that play the game, the circle of people that consume content for the game, the circle of people who consume content for the game that they play that care about this topic, and then inside of that are the people that are actually willing to do something about it. So whenever you actually get down into it, I think that's very much the case. And MMOs, I think, are a very interesting type of genre because a lot of people that play MMOs are, I think, a little bit more like nostalgic for how things were versus like maybe shooters or RPG games as a whole. And because of that, I think that you see a lot more of an aversion towards like the social media, phenomenon and like the YouTube videos and content creators. And I've seen more pushback towards content creators in MMOs than I have in a bunch of other content, and a bunch of other types of what do you call it? Types of genres of games.
You will sometimes run into people that play the game or have played the game, but it's not so big that it's all encompassing. Everyone's heard about this. And I feel like generally, especially even for like very experienced Warframe players, people are pretty comfortable with that. Warframe is a game that is kind of one of the ones it's big, but nobody talks about it.
Yeah, I think it's massively overestimated the size, and for one key reason. The players play multiple MMOs, but they only really have one MMO that they call home. Whenever we see like new MMOs
Okay, I
coming
don't know
out, you
if
see
LV Realm
existing
is
like player
the
bases
best here,
moving from MMO to MMO. And I think it's unfair to look at the population size from like a net total of all popular MMOs because
honestly.
most people are jumping from one to the next. And I think that's the main factor for me, at least, in thinking that the audience isn't as big as we
Yeah,
think. Because,
I
like
don't
you
think
said, it's an even
the LV
smaller
Realm
audience that watch the
is the
content.
way to go here.
But that's a more true audience because it's one YouTube account, to watch all the MMO content. And I think that's why we see a much smaller sample size in content creation.
The idea that within just the label of MMORPG that there is actually any idea of a community. I think the term MMORPG community is in and of itself an oxymoron. It's not to insult people who love MMORPGs, but you can just go out to any heck the main subreddit, but any space. MMOs are like I think almost in a way tribal by nature and by business model. But within that space, then you could talk about within people who enjoy the content, like not just play the games, but enjoy the content, people who then go about and share their opinion in a comment or a tweet or even post on the Reddit or even the fraction of a fraction of a fraction. And so MMORPGs are very niche.
In general, whenever you're doing anything, you're basically a niche within a niche, and you're talking about fractions of percentages of player bases. It's definitely much smaller than what people would think from the actual player numbers.
I think the Twitch viewer numbers whenever a new MMO has released has shown there are a lot of people interested in MMOs waiting for the next big thing. New World plus Lost Ark are examples. 1 million players at launch, close to 1 million Twitch viewers. The interest is there, however the next gen quality MMO that people are waiting for isn't.
The Hive leader, who used to do MMO oriented videos, and then he left to pursue more comic related, more generalized gaming videos because he knew that the MMO scene was continuing to stagnate. And my hairdresser that I go to every month, she has friends that have children. They're all gamers. They play things like Fortnite, like PUBG. He's pursuing content creation himself. He has a channel that's got, I think, like 20 or 30,000 views. So she asked me, "Hey Mark, what kind of advice do you have for him?" And I'm like, "Well, what kind of videos does he do? Because I do MMO related content." And then asked her to clarify with me what exactly an MMO is. So then I said, "It's a massively multiplayer game." And he goes, "Oh, so it's like Fortnite."
We live in a bubble. It feels like everything is so massive and big to us and popular, especially when we get a new game now. It's like, even if it's not a AAA game, we're just like, wow, look at this new game. Like, it's like, but when you look at a lot of our barriers, which I think are just some of them natural, right? Progression takes time, some more time investment. You look at the difficulties of the games in many cases have been too hard to even attract the right kind of audience. And having a stable internet connection, and in some cases being willing to pay the subscription fee, has been things that have been huge barriers that have kept the audience smaller. And feels like that content is big because our influence is big, right? We influence every other genre. Every other genre wants to be like us in some ways. but I don't think we actually move the needle, which is kind of what you're saying, as much as people might think.
If you were talking to like a mum and you were like, hey, I play an MMORPG, they'd be like, what's that? Is that like Fortnite? Because the concept of an MMO is massively multiplayer online. So it gives that false perception that there are so many people to populate, but in reality, it really isn't. I think there's a small amount of gamers that play MMORPGs regularly. It's interesting that 50 to 70,000 seems like a lot of people because it actually isn't. I think there's like 8 million people playing Fortnite right now, and that's a lot of people.
Even
Is
just talking to a
Fortnite
friend,
really
his
that
idea
popular?
of an MMO came from what was that show? Big Bang Theory. And I mean, I've not really watched much of it, but I can already tell that it's probably toned down quite a lot. It's probably a lot harder for the general audience to understand what an MMO is, and then to describe that in a very simplistic way. I can see that being a challenge in of itself, because I don't really see MMOs being talked about too much, to be honest, besides YouTube.
If you have 5, 6, 7 friends, an MMO can feel very lively. It can feel, that's not 12 million. Like we're talking 6, like could fit in a large SUV. Like it's that's what it takes. And some of these games call for 25. Like they don't take this big thing. But there's so many ways to play, and there's such big games that you end up honed in with your little group of like 8 or so. And that ends up defining your experience. Somebody can have a bad guild experience and can quit an MMO, even though that was really based on probably 2 or 3 out of like 20 people that put the bad taste in their mouth. So I think not only are they not that big, but they don't have to be that big.
I think in recent years that has started to shift a little bit. I think I felt like that more longer ago than maybe in the past couple of years, because I mean recently we've seen a lot of hype and a lot of publicity around Lost Ark, New World. Like last year there was a massive media frenzy about the WoW Exodus. I don't know, maybe my perspective is distorted because I'm in this community, and so when I see a lot of news about FF14, I'm like, oh well, everybody is clearly talking about FF14. My game is big and getting bigger, but that I'm not sure if I can give an honest answer to that while I'm so entrenched within this bubble, right? Like, can I be really objective about that when I can't? I'm like, I'm knee deep in it.
So the people and few organizations who are making MMO content are often much smaller, but now let's look at who we're making content for. And I'd like to focus on the general MMO content style, overviews of many games, and not specializing into a single game yet. An MMO is designed to be played for many hundreds or thousands of hours. They are multi-year long experiences, and because of this, it's difficult to fully commit to multiple. If you're playing World of Warcraft for 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, you're not going to be able to find the time to also play 8 hours of the Elder Scrolls Online every day, and Guild Wars 2, and RuneScape. This means the most hardcore players of any MMO are often committed to that one game. While they may dabble in others, they do not know it to the extent of their main game. They know every aspect of that game. They are, in effect, an authority on that game. The real danger with extreme fans is when that game becomes more than a game to them. It becomes a character trait, a lifestyle, or in extreme cases, a lifeline. MMOs are designed to be able to exploit addictive personalities, and in some cases, players with antisocial personalities or social issues in real life will retreat into the MMO world, and the MMO world can become more real to them than reality, meaning any critique or review of their MMO is seen as a personal attack against them. Now, all hobbies have the toxic extremists within them, but the MMO genre is uniquely designed to be played for thousands of hours and to give you a second reality to immerse yourself in. While hobbies such as painting or running or cooking can be immersive and people can certainly build personalities around them, they don't encourage or facilitate the creation of a totally separate reality in the way MMOs do. This can lead to hardcore players becoming so deeply isolated within their game's subculture that it can begin to feel like the game is the biggest thing in the world. Everyone they know plays it. Everyone they know likes it. Existing within that social bubble of an MMO game can slowly warp a player's perception of how important that game is, or status within that game is, to everyone else. And then a reviewer or content creator comes along and makes a video on that game. Unless that reviewer is one of the hardcore fans themselves and already has thousands of hours in that game, the fans will look at the review and ask, what gives you the authority to review my game. Hardcore fans
Yeah, it's
will
true.
want to be represented and critiqued by someone just as experienced and committed as them, and while that's totally understandable from a gaming content perspective, it can mean any review from a reviewer with fewer hours invested than the hardcore player base gets immediately discarded. Hobbies are of course important, and a variety of hobbies allows you to experience a variety of things in your life, but a hobby should always enhance your life and not become it or trap it. Extended time inside a virtual world can sometimes blur the lines between virtual and reality. I'm not saying you shouldn't be proud of the achievements you have within games, but you shouldn't confuse them with meaningful life progression outside of the game. When an MMO game becomes someone's main source of socializing or of personal pride through virtual achievements, reviews, especially negative ones, can be met with extreme, abusive, or in some cases dangerous backlash.
I think I've been dealing with that for the last 5 years, probably longer than that. I think it's just the case is because it's, again, like it's what you said, whenever you attack the game, you attack their identity, because so much of their identity is tied up with the game that whenever you say that this game is bad, well, whenever you've invested 10,000 hours into a game, but then somebody tells you that it's bad, you start getting a little bit of effectively buyer's remorse. What did I spend 10,000 of my hours for? What did I spend my life on the past 10 years? If it's bad, you can't tell me that I wasted all my time on something that's bad. So I think people do take it very personally. I think that also content creators, there are just some nuances to making content with like MMOs that are more unique than that would be for other genres. So like, for example, people gift you items and people are able to like help you get certain things. And I think that does create a certain amount of animosity with people that want to use MMOs and video games as a whole, is that video games used to be that great equalizer for a lot of people who didn't necessarily have a lot of opportunities to maybe be successful in real life or do something that's noteworthy in real life. They could go to a video game and be put on an even playing field with somebody who made $1 million a year or somebody who was 6'8" or something like that.
The big issue with the hyper enfranchised players, and I was this at one point. I mean, I've been covering Warframe for honestly a large part of it. I was out of touch with the usual player, and I feel like that's where most people will get to whenever you have spent enough time in a game that you kind of don't remember learning how to play it, and you spend a lot of time around these friend groups, like you said, that are also in the game and very experienced. You can begin to see yourself as being the average player when in most cases, if you're a long-term member of a community that is spending multiple days a week on a game, you are not the average player of that game. And the other side of that, which is the much more unreasonable and very toxic, which is that you will begin to view yourself as the player that matters most, where your feedback is the one that's important. It's the one that the devs should pay attention to. The new content should be for you.
An MMO becomes your second life. This is where you want to spend all your time. And with MMOs just shifting and dying constantly, it's like this big cycle of just churning through the next MMO. People don't want their MMO that they've found as a home to die, and that they almost like protect it like a child. And it leads to, like you said this before, tribalism, where your opinion may be completely valid, but they don't want it to be valid. If there are big flaws in a game like New World, which there were, we both exposed humongous flaws with that game, the community will rally and try and, pull it under their wing and protect it and say, yeah, but it's early days, where we're actually advocating for them to get a better version of the game that they bought, the version that they were promised. But they don't see it that way. They see it as us, slowly knocking the nail into the coffin.
Have I felt the sting from the MMO community? Well, yeah, like not maybe just their identity, but it's their community. The perception that you might be preventing others from checking out their game, there's a risk. It's this weird gatekeeping mentality where you're going to say what we want you to say within this, here's the approved space. And we're also not going to we're not going to talk about it in this way because we don't want these type of players, coming into our space. Like I want and I believe that honesty and authenticity within content is more important than somebody's feelings about a game.
I'm not sure I'd say that it's it's drastically more. I think maybe percentages. I think once you get into like the hardcores, then probably, and there probably are more hardcores in MMOs just because of the time investment. But yeah, I think it's probably worse than other games in general. I would just say just do whatever makes you happy and then just don't read the comments.
There were death threats a few years ago when I made a negative video about Final Fantasy XIV. The video was awful, to be fair, but still.
So gaming was an outlet for me. I made a lot of friends in them. I ended up preferring that to the life that I was living. So I can understand how these people are going from their life. You know, they might work a 9 to 5 job that they hate. They come home and they get into this game where there's someone powerful. The kind of scene that we paint is different to the grand image that they have of the game. So I can understand how they feel that we're personally attacking like a major part of their life with regards to how that's going to potentially affect new content creators. If your views don't necessarily align with the vocal majority, then they are going to crucify you. It doesn't matter what you say, what kind of defense that you have, they will hate on you and attack your views and your opinions regardless.
So this is, I feel like you and I both probably have a similar answer in the sense that we probably have a lot of experiences with this sort of thing. So I'm going to try to keep it as short as I can because unfortunately we both have series that basically, even just by reading the name, can make you mad. Negative experiences that come to mind for me specifically have to be Final Fantasy XIV fans. In almost any capacity, they mean well, but sometimes by meaning well, they do so much harm. And I think that that's obviously something we're probably talking about here in a sense, is the hyper-enfranchised fans can actually make their game a lot less accessible. So I'll say like Final Fantasy XIV fans were an example of that. And also, I find it a lot in role-play-centric games, like SWTOR, for example. It's a very role-play-centric game. So for role players, they're looking and trying to play the game in a completely different way. So they don't care about a lot of the same concerns that I might have, or you might have, or someone else might have, right? Who's playing it for more than just role play.
I've got quite a unique position, I think, creating content with World of Warcraft, because the overall perspective of WoW is quite negative. You know, hyper in franchise fans actually not liking the game. And so when I do say something positive about the game, because the game is actually really good in certain elements, they don't like that. If you think something else is good or something else is bad, your opinion is invalidated. If your opinion doesn't follow the cult group opinion of the game, you're alienated. And it almost feels like you're causing trouble by speaking your mind. It's kind of like going against the grain. And if you go against what they are already thinking, then it doesn't matter what you say. Your opinion's invalidated. It doesn't mean anything because it's not what they already think of the game.
Yeah, this is an absolute classic one. This is a topic I actually really like to talk about on stream. I try and push back against it as much as I possibly can because I think it's ultimately incredibly self-destructive, actually, to MMO communities. Like when you look at, if you look at a game and you go, wait, these guys are like a cult, or you go like, wait, do I want to get into this? This is a little bit weird, right? And for sure, I definitely think this happens with MMOs a fair bit, right? And I think you hit the nail on the head, right? It's because it's such a big part of your identity, right? A big part of your life. You're like, wait, have I wasted my time? Did I pick the wrong game? What am I doing, right? This is not, this isn't right. This can't be right. This is my game. I play this game. So, or if you are going to be very critical of the game, it's not going to be interpreted in good faith, and that's putting it politely.
My latest upload on Starbase, right? And it's a self-proclaimed MMO, right? They say that it's an MMO, make your own fun kind of thing. Player-based economy, it's all about the players. Now, the game was already kind of dead. I mean, it's on life support, okay? So with about, let's say, 200 players max, even then, I was terrified because the amount of hours you would need and the amount of hours you see on some reviews, coming up to nearly thousands of hours, you look at that and you think to yourself, well, I'm coming in, I want to tell a story. I also don't have thousands of hours to make this video. I don't want to risk just looking at links online and trying to put two and two together and missing something else that's hidden that everyone's going to call me out on. Why not just speak to the community? Almost kind of turn into, well, yes, this game has gone downhill, but there is a really good community behind it.
Is I think we get really tribalistic because we've allowed this hobby to become maybe more of our life than it should be. Escapism on its own is healthy. I think it's nice to be able to get out of your own skin from time to time, and every hobby does it. But I think when you let it get to the point that you need to like physically threaten or attack somebody, I don't know where the line is, but you're way past it.
MMOs are unique in that they do tend to encourage that human nature that tends to want to join a tribe and protect the tribe and be part of the tribe because they're so community driven, because they're so social. That's the thing that really makes MMOs unique. And it is a double edged sword for sure. There are people who do make the MMO that they're playing their whole identity, their whole personality revolves around that. And so recently we've seen some problems with that. But there is definitely a subset of MMO players that treat it like it's us versus them. It is our tribe against the other tribe, which is bizarre and unsettling because they forget, this is a product.
If you do decide to create content within the MMO world, either on YouTube or Twitch, you've got two basic channel types. There are variations between these, but broadly, you'll either be general genre focused or specific game focused. General creators are able to give a broad overview of the genre at the expense of specialist knowledge within each game. These are creators like myself, The Lazy Peon, or Kira TV. We're able to paint with a broad brush, but this can mean missing the finer details. So instead of being a general MMO creator, you could specialize into a single game. It's absolutely possible to do. Many people have found YouTube and Twitch success as champions of their chosen game. Zeppler plays Final Fantasy XIV, The Mighty Teapot plays Guild Wars 2, Brozine plays Warframe, and each of them have lots of detailed content around that specific game, but even specializing is not without risks. The benefits of specializing are the community come to see you as an authority, and you're always able to make very specific, nuanced content. You're able to fully explore the depths of a game's systems that a general creator will miss or not have the time to explore. But the risks are how you are connecting your YouTube or your Twitch or even yourself as a level of celebrity to this game specifically. You're binding your career to it. And if the game fails, so do you. The larger specialized channels we have now are very talented, and they also happen to choose the correct games to bind themselves to find success. If WildStar had just released and you went all in on being a WildStar content creator, you're going to be pretty unhappy when the game shuts down and your YouTube back catalogue is now irrelevant. Or the Twitch streams you've been relying on for income suddenly see a massive drop in viewership because the game people know you for is gone, and people valued the game more than you. Specializing into a single game as a full-time creator is only an advantage if the audience who cares about your specialist knowledge is large enough to sustain you. Every time a new MMO comes out, we see waves of people decide this is the one. They specialize and they build careers up around Terra, or Elion, or Neverwinter, or more recently, New World. And if the game flops, so do they. Now, New World is still going, but the creators are not seeing anywhere near the amount of views they were when the game first released. General MMO content creators know this and have to make a decision on general versus specialist. For example, while I'll happily make a silly video on, say, Swords of Legend Online, I won't pour thousands of hours into it to become a specialist before I do, because I simply do not think that would be a smart use of my time. I am aware this means my content will sometimes miss the more esoteric details of a game and anger the player base for it, but that's a choice I've made.
As soon as you see like a game losing popularity, you can look at the directory and see that all of the people that used to be getting, like say 5,000 viewers, now they're getting 1,000 viewers, and it just keeps going down. So I think that the biggest risk whenever you're becoming a specialized content creator
Probably
is
gonna
that
stop at 30-minute mark.
you're playing a game that doesn't really have an audience large enough to necessitate you only playing that game. So for example, people that only play Minecraft, they can do it because Minecraft is like the biggest game in the world. People that play Fortnite, many of them can do it too. But I think that once you get into smaller games with smaller audiences, that's whenever it
Is
becomes
Minecraft
less
really that big?
sustainable and a lot more volatile, because you're much more at the whims of the current state of that individual game. Like I know this for WoW is that in WoW, like there would be sometimes back in like Legion where I'd have 10,000 viewers, or I think during the Tomb of Sargeras release, I had 25,000 viewers. It was insane. And then the next couple of days, I went back down to 4. And so that's a huge difference. And that's what happens whenever you're just making content for one specific game, is that your popularity is tied to that game.
The reason that I started creating content the way that I do, which is entirely about Warframe, is because I completed Warframe. I decided that the end game of Warframe now for me, which is still a thing that was up for debate, the end game for me now is that I am a content creator now, and I am going to help the new players. I became that type of creator purely based on the love of the game, and whether or not it was going to succeed or fail, I was just going to go in that direction because I really like Warframe a lot. It is my favorite game. The difference for general creation is that you do get, a much more narrow view at any game. And the unfortunate bit about that is that it means that if you do stumble across that game, like if you stumble across your Warframe, you probably won't be able to spend as much time with it as you'd really want to. And also it would be hard to focus in your, large general audience into the specifics of what you now want to get into.
It's a tough thing to do because, as you said, you miss out on some of the more specific details that hyper fans of that game would expect to see. But at the same time, you actually have a lot more knowledge of the general genre, and that can be invaluable in the sense that when I'm reviewing New World, I can use my knowledge of Mortal Online, my knowledge of RuneScape and not Terra, not Terra anymore, but any of those games as a kind of cross-reference, right? I can review it in a more unbiased way. However, you are correct in the sense that being a specialized content creator gives you all these extra details, all this information that's super important to a lot of people. If a content creator starts out with New World and they ride the massive hype train at the beginning, they're going to come crashing down with it as well if they don't diversify. It's like, the saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
I think algorithmically, you're setting yourself up for a world of depression and anxiety and even mental health problems that they're going to challenge you and push you and make you question your own sanity. So the thing about being generalized, it's very valuable to your mental health. The thing about being specific is that as a career, that's a niche within a niche within a niche within a niche. And so the solution that I've actually developed is what I do is multi-channel. So I have a New World focused channel. I have a Final Fantasy focused channel. When it comes down to it, I think a handful of games is the best way. But algorithmically, you have to actually multi-channel because the algorithm is going to hit you.
You have more freedom to do whatever you want, because it's not just tying your channel to that game. It's also tying that you have to make videos about that game, which means if you stop enjoying it, then what else are you going to do? You're going to have to pivot at some point, or like you say, your channel's going to die. So I think the benefit is just having more freedom to do whatever you want.
The benefits of specializing are if a top tier MMO ever does come out that you get hooked into, then there's new content with every update, and you become the authority figure of that game, and you'll likely be invited to community events or even get offered a community manager backup job, as has happened with RuneScape and Guild Wars 2.
All right. All right, YouTube. Well, I hope y'all have a good night. I'm gonna hop off here and go to bed because I am really tired. So we just did like a little 30-minute grind and try out the spot. Looks like I only got really like 8,000 trash, which I don't even know. Let's see, Garmoth. I don't even know what the average trash at this spot is. I'm sure it's probably a lot more than that. Well, shoot, maybe. Thanks to that. Let's see, average trash is around 20,000. Okay. All right. Yeah. Where the heck is Sage at? Sage, Succession. Yeah, okay. Don't really agree with you on that one. All right. 14,000? Only 5 hours, though. All right, cool. Well, hope you have a good night. Peace, peace.